Aqui é a RM Office Private Living, Rio de Janeiro City, Rio de Janeiro State, National State Brazil. We kind of didn't sleep it yet, and we will make a movement, have the continuity from the point we stopped. We are working at this, an accusation systematically presented from corruption, which implies the continuity of failure institution, regular or corporate, with patterns inside that kind of bring them both to an identity. And if they didn't have a dismissing process or kind of having the same covariance as stimulus on top level, things like this. And we check that this criminal association, going by blind eye association, sets the premise as transnational organized crime, very exposed at the pandemic, even by white collar crime, tax evasion, which do not imply not only do not have the proper payment, but have the proper payment, and the income as public investment have the evasion by public contracts in overpriced situation or stimulus or things like this signed by specific segments with specific chair, individualized, sometimes committing a treason against their own nation. And the financial evasion, which is this money going around, supporting sometimes terror, piracy, and other things. We will check that if this anti-crime research, which had the kick off, and then we had the continuity until have things entirely made, and things got made by my own effort. I had no support at all, and for sure this is something that annoy everybody that go is inside the scam of illicit advantage and gains, especially by failure, which is the premise of continuity, and the deeper level of this premise is the blind association, corrupting the will since from the very beginning, in the bottom of your mind. And this gives the idea the cretinismus brasilis, which is the general perception as committing crimes by failure, by control instruments, and have the continuity of those failures. We have the new tracer, and the flow and the reversal flow must be the same. And the quadrant tracer. The quadrant tracer by buildings with specific chairs or chairs that can be inside segments, office, corporate, and public departments. We'll check that the new tracer as flow and reversal flow. If I have an activity before the covariant thing, then I had the covariant thing and activity shut the doors and receive something to put them in on fit again, maybe we will have this thing as quadrant tracing. We will consider that we must act in three different continents because according to the Interpol, the speech of Mr. Julian Stock, one of the heads leading the decisions about the investment on Europe, consider a steering committee to supply areas that goes along with criminal purpose, and of course we will not fight the crime properly. And is is a transcontinental activity, so we must have the control in a transcontinental way. We had the perception in a very first moment considering the North America, the South America, and Europe. And we had the development of this research this year for the first part as controlled by Budget, the second part the control by the Hellsbound, which is a transference of a causal document as a negotiable instrument operated by factoring with anticipation and unique payment considering a paradigm as payment, which is 1% of first 3 trillion the paper entirely estimated on 33 trillion, which is the value divided from public budget Brazil in these last 33 years since 1988 We send this for a review, an European review, an American review, and we will check that we have a bank in Brazil 100% corporate, named Bradesco. Bradesco is a bank 100% corporate, and we had another one on São Paulo, which is the Intensa São Paulo, an Italian bank. And I will have Brazil and Italy. And I will receive my money as consequence of this compensation, 1% of first trillion. I will have 50% with this financial service in America. The Bradesco will transfer this money for the Intensa as a circle of wealth or wealth cycle as an economic theory. I think that is an Italian economist named Enrico Modigliani or something like this. And the Intensa will transfer to the Intensa Bank as headquarters on Italy. And Bradesco will transfer a piece of this, considering a small segment here, considering services that they can offer maybe, and the Italian bank will have a branch of Bradesco on Italy, and they will have an Italian service here which will be filled at the Intensa Brazil with a complementary to with Bradesco, and in Bradesco Italy we will have the complementary to with the Intensa São Paulo headquarters. Quite simple to understand. This will kind of operate as a bank do. We will have gains by the spread. And for sure, the fiduciary element, considering the neutralize as flow and reverse flow, and the quadrant trace, will imply the first condition to have this, which is cut, dismiss the personnel, the crew, the employees that committed fraud inside the bank system in the last at least 6 months or the last year. Because we would like to conquer back the fiduciary element and then trust affected by all things, and open space for instruments that do not have the same stability, like cryptocurrency and digital payments or things like this. The bank will put them out, and the bank will obtain gains by the spread, forming a pool, a financial pool, which is the consequence of the use of my money applied at the bank, entirely legal, as a consequence of my origination that flows as a causal document with the anticipation of as unique payment operated by factoring. This is the first pool that we will have. We will have the 3 drivers here, considering the Bradesco and the Italian bank, which is the Intensa. And they have, the small piece, each one. This is our first pool. And this first pool will have the integrity as amount of money entirely filled by the operation that will go here. And we'll go here in this way. We will rank in a list of companies and activities affected during the COVID-19 and not linked with criminal purpose. I bet that will be a few numbers, but we will operate like this. And they can claim money here, and the bank will operate as bank do. But we have these 2 levels here that indeed will it suggests that you have the law enforcement inside, as the FBI, the CIA maybe, or the Interpol, and have now the Mintzberg design, and the list that will be ranked here can get the money at the bank, and the bank will be under the review at least at this operation, which is my money I can't have the command and the control of the entire bank to both. They have the wholesale, but I can have the management of my expectation and payments and money. And they will kind of have their companies back, and the market will get the integrity back as real business. Then we will have real economic result, and they can suffer the taxation properly and complain by abuses as abusive taxation and misusage of the tax paid as public income. And then we will have our second pool after this one got entirely filled by the spread at this model. And we will have the second pool, maybe a bit minor than the first one, with the drivers now, which is the Bradesco, the Intensa São Paulo, Italy, and the two small pieces as my staff level inside the Mintzberg organization for the most proper control, and we will offer just like a stadium here for companies or activities, real activities with interest in being on it. We raised a system of control and defense, and this system indeed is presented as a moral entity, which is the interest that this research affected and hurted by the abuses and systematic violations committed or perpetrated by a system of crimes integrated in Brazil and explicit evidence and improved from the public budget, committing a variance of crimes and all in general with the interest or purpose as continuity of this kind of thing. They didn't have the dismissing procedure. A business or things linked with by coalition can't be at this, because you can't be a victim if you are the offender. And then we will have another one, for instance, level S pool, and things go on and on and on, all by law, strictly legal, having the review of the business by the staff, which is the Federal Bureau of Investigation and others. And we will have this model in the same way in America, considering maybe the Bank of America or the Citibank. And then guess what? We are having the review of South America, North America, and Europe to put our boat here with people committing transnational organized crime, international crime as activity. It can be a ministry, a director, a CEO, whatever, the owner of a bank, a president, an ex-president, doesn't matter. The application of the law is by equity. If you are a criminal scam with public corruption inside, you lost integrity by the association with things traced. You got traced by this, both tracked and sent to the boat, equally guilty. Then we will have now, after have this as hellbound, the application of the law strictly enacting orders and seizures and forfeitures from embassies considering specific offenders, especially in Brazil, by Article 37 of our Constitution. Who caused the problem must be charged by this and the public department, and the distribution of failure integrated from budget on article and other instruments 74 by geopolitical distribution on 2381. And they must pay or have or indicate with who is the owner of the entire money devoted since 1988. This boat is suggested to the departure on 2022, another one in 2024, another one until or before 2028. Have the security things, and we have the model at 2028 as an extra encouragement to do things properly inside the Major League Soccer America. We finish here. Have a nice week. It's time to sleep. Bad time.